Today we are going to unpack the sprawling and incredibly complex life of Burton Leon Reynolds Jr.,
Burt Reynolds.
a man whose legendary mustache and, that self-deprecating wit, it masked a lifetime of physical setbacks and real critical tension.
And career pivots. So many pivots, often born out of sheer necessity.
Exactly. This is not just the story of a movie star. It's the journey of an American icon who, he redefined masculinity.
But only after losing the athletic identity that he thought was everything.
The one thing that meant the world to him.
That whole narrative arc, from gridiron star to Hollywood icon spanning over 6 decades, is what makes his story so compelling.
He really navigated every major transition in entertainment.
He did. He moved from the very rigid structure of, 1960s television westerns to becoming, and there's no doubt about this, the world's most bankable and highest-grossing movie star for a very significant period.
But that journey was anything but smooth. It was marked by career miscalculations, devastating health crises, and, of course, very public financial ruin.
And when we talk about his peak, it's almost hard for audiences today to grasp the scale of his domination at the box office.
It really is. This wasn't just being popular. This was global supremacy. From 1978 to 1982, Burt Reynolds was voted the world's #1 movie actor in the annual Top 10 Money-Making Stars poll.
And that 6-year run, that commercial dominance, is a record he shares only with Bing Crosby.
Think about that for a moment.
Bing Crosby, the scale of his appeal, his ubiquity in pop culture, the financial engine he represented for the studios during that era, it's nearly unmatched in modern Hollywood.
It really is, and it sets the stage for understanding the enormous stakes of his later choices.
Exactly, because beneath that charming, irreverent, and highly self-deprecating movie icon that audiences adored on late-night talk shows.
The guy who always seemed to be in on the joke.
Right. Underneath all that lay a deep internal tension. We're examining the duality of a man whose initial athletic dreams were just violently shattered.
And an actor whose desire for commercial fun and loyalty to his friends constantly stood in opposition to the critical validation he secretly sought. His entire career is a testament to constant, necessary reinvention.
So to understand the superstar who arrived in the 1970s, you have to first look at the person Burt Reynolds almost was.
A serious professional football player.
Exactly. He was born Burton Leon Reynolds Jr. in Lansing, Michigan, but his roots and his formative years were strictly Floridian.
That's right. His family moved to Riviera Beach, Florida. His father eventually took on the role of police chief there.
And he was known during his formative years by the nickname Buddy.
It's interesting to note that his early focus was entirely non-theatrical. He lived and breathed the identity of the athlete.
Oh, he was a genuine athletic talent at Palm Beach High School. He excelled, lettering in both football and track.
And he was recognized as a first-team All-State fullback in 1953.
Which is a major achievement that earned him a scholarship to Florida State University, FSU. This was his identity. This was the trajectory he and, really, everyone around him expected.
And he was integrated into that FSU environment immediately.
Yeah.
We know he roomed with Lee Corso,
the legendary college football coach and analyst,
who famously joked that Reynolds was essentially their dorm's bait for attracting attention from women.
Well, that detail underscores his early charisma, but his talent on the field was absolutely real. In 1954, his freshman season, he secured his first start at right halfback and contributed significantly on special teams and defense.
He wasn't destined to be a bench warmer. He was on a clear path.
But the body betrayed the ambition. And this is where the narrative pivots so dramatically.
The physical toll he endured wasn't just a minor setback. It was catastrophic. It ended the only career he ever truly prepared for.
It was a 1-2 punch of just devastating injuries. The first came in 1955 during preseason workouts when he suffered torn cartilage in his right knee.
Which required surgery and forced him to withdraw from school for a while.
Right. Painful, but recoverable.
But the second injury, just 2 months later, that's what fundamentally sealed his fate. It left long-term physical damage that would resurface throughout his life.
Precisely. At the age of 19, he was critically injured in a severe automobile accident on State Road A1A. His vehicle collided with a stalled truck.
And the result was major internal injuries, including a ruptured spleen.
He was hospitalized for an extended period, and the recovery was agonizingly slow and incomplete. When he tried to rejoin the FSU football team 2 years later in 1957, the lingering physical effects.
Particularly the internal damage.
Yes, and the overall physical weakness from the crash, it just made it clear that his playing career was over. The physical identity that defined him was gone.
So how does a highly physical, intentionally driven former athlete whose future was just wiped out pivot from that devastating loss to the soft intellectual world of the stage? It seems like the most improbable transition.
It was a complete accident, a function of needing to fill time while he was recovering. In 1956, while recuperating from the knee operation and attending Palm Beach Junior College, PBJC, he enrolled in an English class.
And the instructor was Watson B. Duncan III.
And Duncan became the catalyst for everything that followed. He was the absolute linchpin.
What did he see in him?
Duncan noticed Reynolds' natural charisma and specifically heard him reading aloud in class. He encouraged him to try out for the school play, a dramatic piece called Outward Bound.
And Reynolds, just needing a distraction, went along with it.
And he wasn't just cast, he excelled immediately. He won a major award for his performance.
Yes, he took a main role and earned the Best Actor award at the 1956 PBJC Drama Awards.
Reynolds later stated that Duncan was the single most influential person in his life, recognizing that this man steered him away from potential aimlessness after his sports career ended and toward the arts.
And that drama award led directly to a scholarship to the Hyde Park Playhouse, a summer stock theater in New York.
But initially, he didn't view this as a career. He saw it as a practical choice.
A better way to earn money during the summer than doing physically demanding construction or manual labor jobs.
Exactly. It was an alternative to heavy lifting, not a calling. But once in New York, he started making connections. He met Joanne Woodward,
who was instrumental in helping him find his first agent in the city. She saw a magnetic, attractive presence who just needed a professional break.
But getting a break in New York, even with an agent, is notoriously difficult.
Especially for someone without formal training who only got there by chance.
It was a brutal grind. Following his Broadway debut in a flop called Look, We've Come Through, he spent several years just surviving on odd jobs.
We're talking waiting tables, washing dishes,
driving a delivery truck, working as a bouncer at the Roseland Ballroom. This period of poverty and professional uncertainty is often overlooked when we talk about the flamboyant superstar. It defined his early hunger.
And that leads to the famous Universal contract. How did he land a 7-year studio contract after such a patchy start?
It wasn't based on a stunning acting reel. It was pure magnetism and potential. The legendary talent agent and studio boss Lou Wasserman was instrumental in securing that contract.
And the famous quote attributed to him speaks volumes about the old Hollywood machine.
It does. I don't care whether he can act or not. Anyone who has this effect on women deserves a break. It was a recognition of star quality that transcended performance.
But even that star quality came with a major professional obstacle, what we've called the Marlon Brando shadow.
Oh, it was a debilitating professional obstacle. He was told straight out in the late 1950s that he couldn't be cast in a significant film like Sayonara because he looked too much like a younger version of Marlon Brando.
So there could only be one.
In that era, yes. Being compared to Brando meant being relegated to a copy, and studio heads didn't want the visual confusion. This comparison created a lifelong chip on his shoulder and a rivalry.
Which is why he eventually grew the iconic mustache.
To actively try and differentiate his image.
Exactly. And his early television work really highlights this struggle to find his footing and also his reputation for being difficult. He gets the main role in The Western Riverboat, but he only lasts 20 episodes.
He quit. And he was quite open about his unhappiness. He cited conflicts with the producer and the lead actor, Darren McGavin, believing his part, the boat's pilot, was poorly written and stupid.
Leaving a starring role on a network show like that, it must have damaged his reputation immensely.
It did. For several years afterward, he was pigeonholed into guest starring roles, often playing heavies or minor villains in series like Alfred Hitchcock Presents and The Twilight Zone.
He spent years paying the price for that perceived arrogance.
He called those years depressing, surviving professionally but not thriving. However, those years, despite the depression, were an essential apprenticeship.
He later admitted he learned more about acting and the technical side of the craft doing those one-off guest spots.
More than he did just standing around trying to look handsome on the set of Riverboat. It forced him to become a craftsman.
So the crucial step toward repairing that reputation and gaining stability came in 1962. He was cast in Gunsmoke.
One of the longest-running and most popular Westerns in television history, he played Quinn Asper, a half-breed blacksmith.
This was a brilliant move and a crucial 3-year period for him.
It was. The character of Quinn Asper was a significant departure for the show, a non-white, more physically rugged character. Reynolds referred to this time as the happiest period of my life, suggesting the stability and camaraderie were exactly what he needed after years of struggle.
And yet, he walked away in 1965. He felt he had served his apprenticeship and couldn't grow further.
He felt the need to step out of the shadow of the lead, James Arness, and seek movie roles. Unfortunately, his first attempts at film stardom were not auspicious.
No, he made a series of low-budget films, including that Italian-produced spaghetti western Navajo Joe,
which he openly despised. He famously summed up his performance by saying, "I had two expressions, mad and madder."
So he finds himself back in that strange limbo. A recognized TV star, but failing to break through as a legitimate movie lead. How did he solve this?
This is where the true strategic genius of his persona comes into play. He didn't try to outact Marlon Brando or Clint Eastwood. He decided to leverage his personality on the new, burgeoning medium of the talk show.
Starting with appearances on The Merv Griffin Show.
He became a viral sensation before the internet even existed.
Why did this work so well in the late 60s and early 70s?
Because the media landscape was evolving so rapidly. Most major stars, your Newmans, your Redfords, they maintained a distance. They projected stoicism and serious dramatic intent.
Reynolds was the opposite.
Completely. He was irreverent, candid, and critically, he was fiercely self-deprecating. He was openly laughing at the poor quality of his own movies and his previous career flops.
He even mocked his own career status, calling himself America's most well-known unknown.
That honesty was revolutionary. It immediately endeared him to the audience. It allowed him to showcase his true personality, warm, witty, charming, which changed his career trajectory drastically overnight.
People didn't necessarily care what critics thought of his films.
They loved him, the charismatic guest on the couch. This popularity was so immense that he frequently guest hosted The Tonight Show for Johnny Carson.
And he even turned down the opportunity to host his own permanent talk show.
To focus on transferring that personality to film, he understood that the only way to succeed in movies was to play the witty, masculine, but vulnerable version of himself that appeared on television.
And that transition coincided perfectly with his critical breakthrough in 1972, Deliverance.
Director John Boorman, recognizing the intensity Reynolds could bring, cast him as Lewis Medlock, the confident survivalist leader of the canoe group.
Reynolds joked that he only got the script because it hadn't yet been vetoed by the A-list stars like Newman or Redford.
Deliverance was brutal, critically acclaimed, and a huge commercial success, and Reynolds completely dedicated himself to the role, performing many of his own dangerous stunts.
He embraced the physicality, paying a serious price for it.
Absolutely. During that grueling waterfall fall sequence where he insisted on doing the stunt himself despite the obvious risks, he injured his coccyx. This commitment demonstrated a serious dramatic actor beneath the talk show veneer.
But this high watermark of serious critical success was immediately and perhaps irreparably overshadowed by a decision he made concurrently with the film's release.
The infamous Cosmopolitan nude centerfold.
In April 1972, the same year Deliverance premiered, Reynolds posed completely nude on a bearskin rug for the magazine.
He later said he did it for a kick, a spontaneous, irreverent act typical of his talk show persona.
But the timing created a catastrophic cultural clash. Why did critics at the time reject his dramatic work in favor of the sex symbol persona created by that magazine spread?
It was a conflict between the emerging new Hollywood seriousness that Deliverance represented and the traditional, stoic, male-dominated establishment. For a serious, dramatic actor to willingly become a joke, a pinup, was seen as self-sabotage by many critics.
The controversy essentially reduced his performance to a footnote.
A footnote in the larger, titillating narrative of the centerfold. Reynolds himself later stated that he believed that single decision cost him the Oscar nomination he was widely predicted to receive for Deliverance.
It's a profound example of how a star's personal brand can derail professional aspirations. Meanwhile, his personal life was just as high profile.
His highly visible relationship with singer-actress Dinah Shore, who was 20 years his senior, lasted from 1971 to 1975 and was constantly scrutinized.
That age gap created significant cultural buzz.
It kept him in the spotlight, even when his film choices weren't always successful.
And even as he fought to define himself, the shadow of Marlon Brando continued to loom.
It did. He was seriously considered for the role of Sonny Corleone in The Godfather.
There are conflicting stories about why he didn't get the part.
Some sources suggest Brando vetoed him, saying he didn't respect Reynolds, but Reynolds later maintained that he simply declined the role himself.
Regardless of the truth, he grew the famous mustache largely as a final visual declaration.
I am not Marlon Brando. It was a critical step in establishing his own unique iconography.
And having successfully established that persona, he moved into the niche that would make him the undisputed king of the box office, the Southern car chase genre.
White Lightning in 1973 was the film that solidified this new direction. Reynolds tapped into an enormously profitable, underserved demographic, recognizing that movies made specifically for the South were proving highly successful.
He started referring to these as films where they could make back the cost of the negative just in Memphis alone.
It was an incredible economic model. White Lightning and its success led to a string of highly profitable, high-action films. This streak included The Longest Yard in 1974.
Which remains one of his most beloved roles.
He was demonstrating he could turn that talk show charm into pure box office gold, and this success propelled him into directing.
He made his directorial debut with the sequel to White Lightning Gator in 1976.
And he stated explicitly that he enjoyed directing more than acting, believing it was what he did best after waiting 2 decades for the chance.
He had found his voice and his commercial rhythm.
But the absolute culmination of this phase, the film that cemented his cinematic iconography and launched his 6-year box office reign, was Smokey and the Bandit in 1977.
Co-starring Sally Field, who became his long-term partner, and directed by his close friend Hal Needham.
That film was an explosive cultural phenomenon. It perfectly blended action, comedy, and his signature charm.
By the late 70s and early 80s, Burt Reynolds wasn't just a star. He was the biggest star in the world. He was riding high on sequels like Smokey and the Bandits of the Second, and his successful directorial efforts like the neo-noir Sharky's Machine in 1981.
This was the pinnacle of his power, and this is precisely when the most critical career mistake occurred.
A mistake rooted in loyalty and comfort.
James L. Brooks, the director and writer, developed the role of Garrett Breedlove in terms of endearment, the 1983 film specifically with Reynolds in mind.
It was a clear opportunity for him to re-engage with critical, dramatic material, similar to the praise he received for Deliverance.
But Reynolds chose to prioritize his relationship with his friend, director Hal Needham, and the familiar genre that had made him rich and famous.
That decision became legendarily regrettable.
He turned down terms of endearment to star instead in the Needham-directed comedy Stroker Ace,
a film that was critically panned and commercially disappointing.
He later articulated his reasoning. I felt I owed Hal more than I owed Jim Brooks. It was a choice based on friendship and familiarity over artistic risk and ambition.
And the immediate, brutal consequences of that decision were impossible to ignore. The role of Garrett Breedlove went to Jack Nicholson,
who won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. It was an immediate validation of what Reynolds had missed.
He called turning down endearment the stupid decision and his biggest regret.
He stated that it was the precise turning point where he lost them, meaning both his critical momentum and, he felt, a connection with the segment of his audience that wanted to see him grow as an actor.
He felt he never recovered the prestige he surrendered that year,
marking the beginning of his commercial and critical decline in the mid-'80s.
And that slide was then horribly compounded by a career-altering, devastating health crisis, which began while filming the poorly received City Heat in 1984.
Where he co-starred with Clint Eastwood, and this is a period that requires considerable sensitivity because of the debilitating nature of the injury and the public speculation it generated.
On the very first day of filming City Heat, he suffered a severe, unexpected injury.
He was struck in the jaw during a stunt sequence with a real metal chair, not the breakaway prop that was supposed to be used.
And the resulting damage was not just painful, it was chronic and physically restrictive.
Absolutely. The blow resulted in excruciating chronic pain from temporomandibular joint dysfunction, or TMJ. This condition restricted his ability to speak and chew normally, confining him to a liquid diet for an extended period. The pain itself was, by all accounts, immense, often described as paralyzing.
And the physical evidence of this debilitating pain, the loss of 30 pounds, the gaunt appearance, and his need to withdraw from public life led to years of horrifying public rumors about his health.
Yes. This is a tragic consequence of celebrity exposure during a period of medical ignorance. The public, seeing a rapid, dramatic change in his appearance, speculated relentlessly,
Unsubstantiated and baseless rumors circulated for years that he had AIDS.
which deeply impacted him professionally and personally. We have to acknowledge the profound emotional burden he carried, dealing with debilitating constant pain while simultaneously battling public falsehoods about a deadly illness.
And the fight against the pain led to yet another struggle.
The prescribed medication to manage the agonizing chronic injury, the painkillers, resulted in a struggle with addiction that lasted for several years. It became a vicious, involuntary cycle,
The necessity of treating the debilitating pain led directly to a dependency.
adding a layer of struggle to an already physically and emotionally taxing recovery.
He fought back against these rumors by sheer force of will. He publicly stated that he made films like Heat and Malone later in the 1980s specifically, because there were so many rumors about me, I had to get out and be seen.
He felt compelled to physically demonstrate that he was alive, even if the work wasn't top tier.
And as he was battling these internal health issues, his external empire was crumbling.
Despite earning up to $10 million per film at his peak, Reynolds proved to be a remarkably poor businessman, leading to a spectacular public financial collapse.
He lost an estimated $20 million in various failed restaurant chain investments.
This failure offers a crucial insight into business structure. He partnered with executive Buddy Killen on chains like Po Folks and Daisy's Diner.
And the critical error was the legal structure of his investment.
Instead of investing corporately, which would have shielded his personal assets, he invested his capital as an individual. When the regional dining concepts failed, he was personally responsible for all the liabilities.
And that debt was rapidly compounded by one of the most expensive and tabloid-fueled divorces of the era.
The split from actress Lonnie Anderson, whom he married in 1988, was a very public, nasty spectacle that lasted for years. The combination of his naturally extravagant lifestyle, the financial bleeding from the restaurants, and the enormous cost of the divorce settlement.
And alimony and child support for their adopted son, Quentin.
It completely depleted his remaining cash reserves.
The result was the ultimate professional and public humiliation for a former box office king.
Yes. In 1996, facing a lawsuit from CBS over a $3.7 million loan he couldn't repay, Burt Reynolds filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. He listed a staggering $11.2 million in debt against $6.65 million in assets.
It was a massive cultural moment. The #1 star in the world, just a decade prior, was publicly bankrupt.
It took immense resilience, but he did successfully emerge from bankruptcy 2 years later, a testament to his sheer determination to keep working and claw his way back.
The slow process of professional rebuilding and reputational recovery started, ironically, back on television.
The medium he had tried to escape decades earlier, he returned to the small screen, first with the detective series B.L. Stryker from 1989 to 1990.
But the true, sustained success that restored his bankability came with the sitcom Evening Shade, which ran from 1990 to 1994.
He was perfectly cast as Woodward Wood Newton, a former Pittsburgh Steelers professional football player who returns to his small hometown to coach a local team.
This role brilliantly leveraged his history, grounding him in the athletic identity he had lost, but which still resonated with audiences.
Evening Shade was a substantial hit, running for 4 seasons and 98 episodes. This proved he was not just a film star, but a versatile, disciplined performer.
And that discipline and appeal earned him formal recognition from his peers on the small screen.
It did. He won a Primetime Emmy Award for Outstanding Lead Actor in a Comedy Series in 1991, followed by a Golden Globe in 1992. This period of success stabilized him financially and professionally, setting the stage for one final major act on the big screen.
That act came in 1997 with Paul Thomas Anderson's Boogie Nights.
This was the critical validation many felt he had been denied for decades. The role of Jack Horner, the high-minded pornographic film director seeking artistic legitimacy in a marginalized industry, was a powerhouse performance.
It brought him immense, renewed critical attention,
earning him the Golden Globe for Best Supporting Actor and, crucially, his only nomination for the Academy Award. It was the complete, final proof that he was capable of profound, dramatic work.
Yet despite the massive acclaim, the process was fraught with conflict. The tension between the star known for populist entertainment and the young, serious auteur director was palpable.
Reynolds famously disliked working with Paul Thomas Anderson, referring to the young director as full of himself. He felt Anderson lacked originality and was too self-impressed.
There was that story he told about the first shot of the film.
Right, where he drives a car past Grauman's theater, and Anderson supposedly exclaimed, "Isn't that amazing?" Reynolds said he responded by immediately naming 5 previous motion pictures that used the exact same stylistic shot.
That anecdote perfectly encapsulates the ongoing tension of his career, doesn't it?
It really does. The actor who preferred to prioritize fun and loyalty over perceived artistic pretense, even when the pretense delivered his highest professional honor.
His disdain was so strong that despite the critical triumph, he reportedly fired his agent simply for recommending the film in the first place.
He struggled to accept the validation when it came packaged with a perceived lack of humility from the director.
Following Boogie Nights, work was plentiful, though prestige projects largely remained sparse. He settled comfortably into the role of an iconic character actor.
Often in roles that paid homage to his earlier success. We saw him leaning into that legacy,
Such as his appearance in the 2005 remake of The Longest Yard.
where he played the part originally played by Michael Conrad, essentially reversing his role from the original. He also appeared in the Dukes of Hazzard movie as Boss Hogg.
A knowing nod to his dominance of the Southern car chase genre in the 1970s.
And his physical legacy, the very thing that was stripped from him in that early car accident, was formally recognized late in life.
He was a genuine card-carrying member of the Stunt Performers Guild.
Because he insisted on performing his own stunts, famously including the dangerous fall in Deliverance. In 2015, he received the Richard Diamond Farnsworth Award from the Stuntmen's Association, honoring his dedication to the physical side of his craft.
Burt Reynolds died of a heart attack on September 6, 2018, in Jupiter, Florida.
His iconography remains defined by the dual nature we have explored. A dynamic blend of larger-than-life physicality and masculinity, which he had to fight to maintain, contrasted sharply with a juvenile but fiercely self-aware humor.
And his influence remains undeniable.
Even being recognized posthumously when the Florida State football team honored him with helmet decals reading Ban 1, styled after his famous license plate from Smokey and the Bandit.
What we have seen in the life of Burt Reynolds is a figure of remarkable dynamism and adaptability. He was forced to reinvent himself after suffering the catastrophic loss of his athletic identity.
And his tremendous self-awareness and immense charisma allowed him to pivot successfully from a failed professional path to become the world's biggest box office star.
Even when critics routinely dismissed his commercial film choices.
And those pivots were so often defined by deep personal loyalty and comfort. He leveraged his authentic, funny personality on talk shows to overcome initial critical and professional disdain.
Then later in life, he proved his profound dramatic range with Boogie Nights.
Even as his continued preference leaned toward high-action, entertaining films made with friends, his career is a fascinating case study in commercial success versus artistic ambition, where one was often sacrificed for the other.
So, as you reflect on this incredible career, consider the profound and publicly acknowledged impact of regret on a successful life. Reynolds explicitly stated that his biggest mistake wasn't a commercial failure or a flop.
But prioritizing loyalty to his friend, director Hal Needham, and the safety of a familiar genre, stroke race, over the challenging, potentially career-defining role in terms of endearment.
What does this choice reveal about the true cost of chasing fame and comfort? The easy path versus taking a chance on artistic fulfillment and critical challenge, even at the very peak of one's professional power.
It raises a vital question about how often we sacrifice potential growth for the familiar comfort of the past, even when we have achieved peak success.
Indeed.
Thanks for listening.